Oh, golly.
I
Are
went.
we on?
Yeah, of course we
Oh,
are.
my word.
Yeah, you're getting challenged. You're talking like the revelation to Dan. I think that's what you were talking about on my way
Was
in.
that on there?
No.
Oh. Well, that's something I want to run down, Josh, and look at, because that's kind of an interesting thing.
Pastor's talking about the 12 tribes of Israel and the
Tribe of Dan.
the tribe of Dan. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. That's an unusual tribe. They
It's
have
the
an
shortest
unusual
named
history.
tribe, right? Is there another three-letter tribe? Just Dan. You get like Asher and Reuben and Naphtali and Dan. Zebulun. Oh, yeah. I knew a guy named Zebulun in Nashville.
You know, I had a guy in my last church named Nahum.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Gad.
Gad is the yeah. So, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was. My wife and I were trying to memorize the 12 tribes a couple of months ago, and I guess I forgot about Gad. It's tough to name all. I know you can probably name them so quickly.
I'd have to sit here and work through
Well, I'm sure I'd critique your Hebrew pronunciation.
I wouldn't
but
know
I bet
it
you
off
could get through it.
I wouldn't know it off the top of my head. And I certainly could not pronounce it like you do.
Yes. Well, we can't all be Hebrew scholars
can't.
like I am.
That's right.
Yesterday you came out hot because you'd been out. You were traveling before. You were traveling on the 6th, and then so you came back yesterday, and you start. I don't think you did this in the second service, but the first service you opened up your message with a very important announcement, and you went back talking about how Absalom every year would get his hair cut.
Yeah. And they would weigh it out.
Yes.
You know,
And people are like hanging on to your every word, like, oh, he's going to Absalom. How's this going to relate to Moses? And you said, and Kirkwood got his hair cut.
You know, and I asked you before church, did you weigh it out like Absalom did?
I did, but the scale didn't go that high. It
was pounds
It
and
was just
pounds and pounds of it.
well, kilograms. It was downtown. They only use kilograms down there.
Oh gosh!
Have you? I love.
Well, it looks good. Looks great.
Thank you. I feel good. I feel more like myself. I'd let it go too long. You know, wasn't taking care of the. You know, it's a lot of responsibility to have this much hair.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
or at least that's what Rick Burgess says. That was one of the first things he ever said to me. He's like, he like didn't hit his thing. He does that thing where he like looks you up and down, like he kind of sidles in close to you, and you're like, what are you doing right now? And he was just like, you and me have a similar problem. I was like, close talking? Is that the problem that we have? And he said, no, we both have this. We both have a lot of hair, and we got to decide what to do with it.
Yeah.
It's like a point of conversation, you know. So, and it was a big point of conversation. But finally, Joanna will leave me alone because I finally got.
Did you want him to get it cut?
No, she doesn't. She does not care.
Really?
She cares.
You know,
she cares the
hair
least.
is just not something I really care a whole lot about.
I think
It just doesn't.
His hair is just basically another person on staff at this point.
Yeah. There's me. It's my hair enters the room before I do. Yeah. Can I have a separate benefits package for my hair? That would be great.
There are other issues that.
There's other-
Yeah. You know, that's like with the kids, because now listen, my dad was the same way. You got to get that hair cut.
Yes.
You know.
That was a big deal. Way big. It was a
And,
big deal back
you're
in
not
the
going to
day.
let that thing grow out like you're not going to look like the Beatles and all this kind of.
My dad was the same. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why I always have all these crazy things I want to do is because when I was growing up, Dad was like, well, son, meet your mom there in the kitchen. You're getting a buzz cut,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the way it was. And I was, you know, fine with that. And then left the house and just started to grow. Took on a life of its own. And now here we are. But you don't want me to worry about the hair because you've got a host of other issues that you think I need to deal with.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about
No,
those
I
here?
do not. I do not.
You want to put that down for the record?
Oh no.
So you can't. So Chris did a great job while you were out of town. last
Good.
week.
I heard
wanted
that
to
he
tell
did.
you that.
I heard that he did a great job.
He's a faithful minister, and you know he's been working hard with us.
He has
You
a
might
real
have saw it.
pastor's heart.
He really does, and
Yeah.
he's getting ready to conduct for our Christmas program on the 4th.
Yeah.
He's been working.
Man,
really
that
hard
guy
with it.
can do everything.
He really can, man. It's he's a great friend to have, and real.
Does he
gift to the
play an
church.
instrument?
He plays some piano, yeah, but you know he's a great singer. We put him on the praise team from time to time. This is a real busy time of year for him, though, as you know.
Yeah,
Like he's
yeah.
traveling with Lifeline. You know, he's one of their ambassadors.
Yeah, I was in Florida last night. I think he was down there.
Oh, was
but
he
I'm
really?
not sure. I can't. I didn't see him, but I thought he made the comment to me that he was going to be there.
He's another one of those guys. When I text him, I'm playing the "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego." I'm just grateful that the text goes.
I think he goes to all the state conventions, or he goes to a lot of them.
He has to do a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's at least in this region. Yeah, he has to do a lot of. But you've been in a lot of state conventions.
Him too, and well, I say I'm glad to be home. I'm glad to be home these 2 weeks because a week from this Sunday I go to Germany, and I spend the whole week there. Good night. I teach in the seminary, and then I preach, and then I do a pastor's conference, and then I preach. Preaching in Cologne. They were going to send me to the Bavarian mountains down there, and they decided, no, we keep you up here in Cologne. And
wow.
So I'm preaching there.
Bet that place smells great.
Cologne? Yeah, it does. It really does.
I'm really excited for
the
that
cathedral
trip
at
for you,
Cologne.
though.
Well, I've taught over there before, and they love to give you, listen, we've got an 8-hour day, we want you to teach these 8 hours.
7.5 hours.
And I'm thinking, what I'm thinking is the poor students that have to sit there, you cannot take I've had to take a colloquium. Have you ever had one of those? It's an 8-hour class.
Where it's all together.
Yeah,
I've done a
4-hour.
I've never done an 8-hour.
I had an 8-hour colloquium in my D-Min project. And it was just like, halfway through, please, somebody just shoot me. But
I'm sorry about that.
I persevered. I made it through. I survived. And thank the Lord they didn't have any of that in the PhD program. But in the D-Min, they did.
But you got lots of cool trips. You've been to a lot of state conventions. I heard some good news from the Arizona State Convention.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they just elected their president for the year 1987. They finished counting the votes. Did you hear about this?
No.
Really proud of them out there in Arizona. So good job, Arizona
Oh, my
Baptist.
word.
1987 finally came in. Did you see that on the Babylon Bee that Arizona declares their 3 electoral votes for Calvin Coolidge? I love it. I can't get enough of it. So funny.
When you were talking about state convention, I was in New Mexico. This is no joke. They carry out their business. They have all this praise and worship up front. And I told you they had these Navajo Indians
that was incredible.
that led worship. It was great. It was so neat. And then they did this whole block of business, and then I preached, and that was it. That was the end of the convention this year. And so right in the middle of it, they get up and say, okay, now it's time to elect officers, president, first vice president, second vice president.
You probably loved it. It was a short meeting.
They had to beg somebody to get up and nominate somebody.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay, so we've got, president of the state convention here. Anybody have a nomination? Nobody moves. Nobody does anything.
And you finally get up and you're like, I'll do it. I'll do it.
No,
guys.
not me. The current president said, come on. He said, I'm going to have to just call on somebody if y'all don't get up. You sit there and wait. He said, I'm serious. Somebody's got. And so some old guy comes up and he walks up to the microphone. He says, there's old Bill there. He said, I recommend, I nominate. I am not, my hand to the Lord. I nominate old Bill Curley over there to be president of the thing. And he sits down. No nomination speech. You get to the SBC, and my stars, they got nomination speeches that go on and on.
Oh, yeah.
And they keep coming up and tapping them on the shoulder,
Like the
and then he
Oscars, play 'em
eventually
off.
just comes up and puts his hand on you and just stays there.
Here's Moses' shepherd's crook. I'm just going to pull you right off of there.
And then they have like 3 of these things. So I told them in New Mexico, I said, I'm going to stand up at this SBC meeting in 2023, and I'm going to say, New Mexico Baptist should teach us how to hold a meeting. No nomination speeches. Nobody running to a microphone, 5 and 6 deep at microphones. I'm waiting to give this great
5 and
long
6
speech
deep.
for so-and-so.
Or the people that get up to ask a question and their
And then
question is a speech.
And then it got worse with the first vice president and the second
In
vice
New
president.
Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh, nobody wanted to do
Nobody.
it. Nobody.
And
even
then
wanted to
somebody
nominate.
just stands up on the floor. Well, so-and-so will do it over there. I thought, this is great. This is really the way it
They should have had Barry McCarty come in as a guest.
They didn't need a parliamentarian. They had no debate, no issue, no. What a great job, New Mexico Baptist.
Thank you, New Mexico Baptist. And
Good job.
And for
Good job.
And for the both of you that actually tune in to watch this show.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your help. Well, while we're talking talking about the meetings, we should say, next Sunday is the big business meeting for our church,
It is.
the 20th.
Yeah.
And all the nominations and whatnot are done. This is just going to be a celebratory meeting. And we're gonna vote to approve next year's budget,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
going to be good.
Yeah.
Was I not supposed to announce? Was this a secret
No,
meeting?
no,
Using
no.
Okay.
No, it's
So
not
that's
secret.
fine.
Need
We're
them to come.
congregationally led. If you know when the meetings are, hush, hush. So the 20th at 5 p.m. That's going to be our business meeting. It's coming up.
It's coming Sunday night.
Any other announcements you think we should hit before we get into talking about yesterday's message?
No, I think women have like.
Oh,
maybe
favorite things
until
is
later
tomorrow
today
night.
to,
Yeah, that's Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night.
That's coming up. The Alabama State Convention.
That's
It
true. Yeah,
is
tomorrow night, right?
Today and tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it started the 15th.
Well, the pastors' conference.
Oh, okay, right. That's at Shades, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
they're
think so.
hosting that. I was talking with Michael Adler about that the
Yeah.
other day. That's a big thing to commit to.
Yeah, it
Are you
is.
making us do that next year?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think they'll move it somewhere. They'll probably move
Yeah,
it to
they'll-
Mobile.
Oh, yes.
I think they do Mobile, Montgomery, Birmingham.
And just go
like
up,
that.
down, up and
Yeah,
down
up
65. Yeah. Well, it's good to connect with you again. I'm glad
Yeah,
we're
it's
both
good to
here.
see you. Great. Hey, good. I hadn't seen you in so
I
long.
know. Yes. Let's. Yeah, it's good. We just did a little passing of the peace right there. Do we need to do that more on Sundays?
Passing of the peace?
You want to do the
I'm
the
passing
handshakes?
the peace.
You guys tell us in the comments if you think that we should do the handshakes every Sunday. We can do it again if we want to. We did that on November the 6th.
Yeah.
I didn't bring it back this. Wait, it was the 6th? No, it was the week before that. I'm getting all mixed up. You know where my brain is right now?
Where?
December the 4th, when it's our big Advent special
Yeah.
music service.
That'll be great.
That's
It
gonna be-
always is. That
really
and Easter, you do a great job with those.
Thank you, sir. We're really I can't talk. We're really looking forward to it on December the 4th. Normal service times. Lots of great music from lots of great people.
Good.
Pastor, yesterday you were in Exodus chapters
3 and 4. Could you believe that? I covered some territory yesterday.
They came to me yesterday and they were just like, now, Kirkwood, for the scripture reading, they had fear. It was Luke Baxley, he had fear in his eyes. And he was like, please tell me you're not going to read all 37 of these verses on stage. Because he was trying to put it in
No,
proper
I said,
center.
no,
like,
Luke, you're going to read it.
That's exactly what you said. No, I'm not gonna. I wouldn't be foolish enough to do that. But here's the Bible, so you get up there. No, because of the parent, we didn't even talk about the parent-child dedication. That was incredible. And I quizzed you. I kind of threw you under the bus. It was like, Pastor, these people are fulfilling Genesis 1:28, which means, and then you were right there. Be fruitful and multiply. I appreciated that about you.
Yeah, I'm used to being thrown under the bus.
People don't know.
I've been under the bus so long I could change the oil. Under
There's the radiator and there's the transmission. It's nice down here. But Exodus 3 and 4, back to the burning bush. What does the Lord do with Moses on holy ground?
Yeah,
What a helpful message that was.
Yeah, and basically I wanted everybody to stop and think, this is where God's calling me. He's calling me to holy ground.
The conversation between Moses and the Lord is really, really interesting.
It is fascinating.
And you really zeroed in on a couple of the things that they said to one another. One thing is that an interesting point of distinction is when Moses is talking about who am I? He doesn't say, well, Lord, do you know who I am? It's almost like he's asking for clarity from the Lord about who he's supposed to be. And
That's the way I take it. That's how I read it. Is he just looks, I think he's at this point, 80 years of age. The first 40 years, he had so much of everything. The last 40 years, he's reduced to, I've got on the clothes of a shepherd. I smell like sheep. I've been out here. My skin is leathery, and I look like I'm, an 80-year-old tired man. And he just looks at God and he just says, just who am I?
Who am I
What
that I could do
in the
this?
world is my purpose? What am I here for?
Well, and
that's just kind of the way I read it.
Well, and the Lord kind of gives him the Job routine. I've got this circled in my Bible, verse 11 of chapter 4, when he says, Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute, deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, the Lord?
Yeah.
Now therefore go. So Moses tries to give all these excuses. Did you even go that far, or did I jump ahead too much?
No, let's see, where did I go? I've got a different Bible. I preached out of a different Bible last night than I did yesterday morning, and I didn't take that one with me, so I'm having to look
You're
here.
all over the place.
I'm
I think
kinda-
I might have jumped ahead, but either way, that
Yeah,
gets
but-
into
yeah.
God's response there.
You know, there's so much in this conversation. Go back, really, because there's so much of it that I just kind of skipped over, didn't even bring up, didn't look at.
Well, one thing you didn't skip over was Moses' staff and what that represents.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that, because we always kind of think of like the staff itself, and God's like, okay, well, this just happens to be the thing that you're holding, so yeah, you use that. But you talked about how that's connected to what Moses' livelihood was.
Yeah.
And even how he might have been grasping onto that as a form of self-justification, but the Lord takes it from him.
You know, there's so much you could do with that. A shepherd's staff was not, it was like, it's kind of like the toolbox of a mechanic today.
Yeah, right, good
You know,
point.
it represents, this is how I do my job. This is how I earn my living. I rely on this stuff.
Yes.
You know, this stuff is important to me. Same thing with a carpenter or an electrician or a plumber, you know, whatever. But that's kind of what it represents. And usually those staffs were something that they worked on. I started to bring one, but it's up in the mountains. I've got a big staff that the guy was over the PhD department at North Dallas University. And he came to Christ in a contemporary service that I led in Dallas, and he brought me a big old staff, literally.
Like a shepherd's staff?
Yeah, but it's carved out. You can tell he's taken time. It was a choice piece of wood. It was a limb that was straight. You know, it has a little bit of a twist to it.
Yeah.
It's really big. It's like this big up here, and then it tapers down.
Yeah.
And then he had carved on it and shellacked it and all this kind
Yeah.
of. So a staff is not just, oh, well, let me just pick up a stick today. It was something that was very much a part of who they were. It became an extension of their hand.
And so when God says, take that and cast it on the ground, man, there's so much going on there.
But just think of all the things God could have done. He could have cast that on the ground. It became a bird,
Right.
or it became a butterfly, or it became a.
Or it catches fire or something.
You know,
Who knows?
just anything. God could have looked at him and said, hey, just walk across that water right there. Or he could have levitated him up to the top of the mountain. There's all kind of things God could have done.
But instead, God changes it into a serpent. Which, of course, is repugnant to the Israelites, and it's one of the gods in Egypt.
It's an Egyptian god. That's on the crown. That makes up the crown of Pharaoh. Is you have this vulture here, and you have this cobra.
Yep, and then you even showed us that picture from Tutankhamun's tomb, which, of course, that's the famous visual representation of the wealth of pharaohs in ancient Israel or Egypt.
And he was one of the poorer ones.
Yeah. Well, you said, and apparently it's theorized that he was a contemporary of Moses.
Yeah, I think Moses, one of the sources I read, Moses would have been in the wilderness by the time Tutankhamun would have come. But you would have heard, a Pharaoh died, there's a new Pharaoh, people would have heard that. But they did. Their lives eclipsed each other. Not completely, but there was an eclipse.
There's an overlapping there. So Moses is seeing, he doesn't even want to let go of his staff probably, because again, his staff represents so much livelihood. He's an elderly man. He's probably leaning on the staff. He casts the staff down, and God does a miracle with the staff, changing it into this symbol that was that caused so many conflicting emotions in Moses.
I would think so.
But God, instead of saying fear that or kill that, God says that's nothing to me. Just pick it back up.
Pick it up.
And see what
now
I'll
do. Now listen, let me tell you. You just look down here and you see a
King
4
Cobra.
foot long snake.
Yep.
Even if it's a garden snake.
Yeah, I'm not touching that.
You're gonna or black snake.
Black snake, yeah, that's usually ours.
They're not poisonous. They're not gonna hurt you. You pick it up.
I'm still
You're
not
gonna-
touching- I'm
But
not
if
touching
that
that
thing
joker.
was venomous, there's a rattlesnake down here. Just grab him. Just pick it up.
No thanks.
And note, God doesn't even say, now listen, Moses, be very careful. Grab it by the tail, and gently watch it. So you get the impression maybe Moses just reaches down and just grabs it. Not at the tail of it, but he just grabs it.
Yeah, well, I mean, what are you going to do? God, you're standing on holy ground. You don't have your shoes on. You're watching this burning bush that has the angel of the Lord inside it. God's talking to you. God's telling you what to do. Yeah, you better reach down and
Now,
grab
we're
it.
not told, but I'd like to know how long Moses hesitated at that thing, just looking at the bush, and he hears this thing speaking to him, and he's just sitting there trying to figure out, now, is that just the fire crackling,
Right.
or did my name come out of that?
Yeah. He's like, it's finally happened. I've been alone with the sheep.
Yeah,
too long.
I've been out here too
I've
long.
cracked.
Yeah.
We all want to be a fly on the wall, see, not that there's any walls out there in the wilderness, but you know what I mean, just to be able to see what that interaction looked like. We can only, because Moses was the only one there, and then he's the one that writes the book.
Yep, he gives the account of it.
This is the way it was, and God, after 40 years in the wilderness, calls him back to serve. Well, so we zeroed in on the staff. You also talked a lot about leprosy yesterday. I think we can ask the people.
It's always a sign of sin. Leprosy is a sign of,
one quick
the
thing.
result of sin in a person's life.
I think one quick thing before we, look ahead to next week that I thought was interesting. I had forgotten that God tells Moses, he says, if they doubt you, if the Israelites doubt you, you can do these signs again and it'll just happen. The blood, and you closed with the blood, but also the leprosy and the staff.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't think that's really recorded with the Israelites. Obviously, he does it in the court of Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really interesting to me. That God's like, oh, well, if they don't believe here, you can still do these again. That's just an interesting thing to think about, that like at any moment you could just
You wonder if that's what Napoleon was always doing.
For real? Did you
Napoleon,
theorize about that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, Napoleon always had his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a very erudite general kind of thing.
Yeah.
That should be the thumbnail for this. It's just both Pastor and I just holding a very Napoleonic. Okay, perfect. Write that down. Write that down. So where are you going? Where are you going this week then,
I'm not
Pastor?
going anywhere. Thank the Lord.
No, in the text, Pastor.
In the text.
You better not be going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
Stay here.
I am. I want to. You don't know how bad I want to. I don't really know Kirkwood. Honest before the Lord, I was in there. I just drove up about 20 minutes before this, and I have already gone to my office and started just looking at the next pass. What am I going to do? Where am I going to pick up? And I can't tell you for certain.
Well, we're going to do a little Christmas preview song this week.
Oh, good.
It's called Pass Over Us, and it's all about... Do you know
Well, the
which one I'm talking-
Passover's a good little ways away.
Yeah, I know, but this one connects all of it together.
Yeah.
And it'll also
Yeah.
help. It'll also be able to...
Well, that's great. I like the song that you did the other week.
Oh, the Deliver Us? Yeah, that was
that's
good
a good song, too.
Maybe we need to do that again. I don't know. There's a lot of... You're going to be in Exodus for, 4 or
For at
5
least-
years.
yeah,
So
probably.
we're going to be able to reprise some of these songs, and you probably won't even remember that we did them in the first place.
No, by that time, my mind will be gone. That's how long I'll be in Exodus.
Live streaming from the nursing home. Here's Exodus chapter 40 with Donald McCall Brunson Jr.
Oh, me. Yep, me sitting in a rocking chair.
Oh, boy. No, we're going to get through it. I believe you. I believe in you.
We'll get through it.
We're going to get through it. There's a lot. I can't wait till we get to some of this stuff. I get excited.
We've got a
every
little ways to
single
go here. I said yesterday, you look at the book of, and you ask, does this have anything to say to me? Well, my stars, it's your life.
Yes.
You just look at it
the application
and start thinking about it. This is your life.
Mm-hmm.
This is me. How many times have you just asked yourself, just who am I?
Yeah. What am I supposed to? You want me to do that, Lord? Are you kidding me?
And
I don't
then,
want to do that. I
God,
can't
who
do
are
that.
you? Really? Even now, there are times I want to know, God, show me more of yourself. Yeah. I haven't gotten, and the Lord says, you hadn't mastered what I've put in the book yet.
That's a really
So
good
you don't need to know anymore. You hadn't gotten this down yet.
You can say that again. Golly, well, thanks for taking us through Exodus. I told the choir yesterday. I love how so much more of this is just coming to life. You know, so many of these stories that I thought I knew because I saw them on the flannel board. You know, in 1989 in
With
Sunday
flannel
school.
board. There was a time when a flannel board
That was the peak
was something
technology.
contemporary.
Oh yeah.
Y'all have brought that in here to use. I can't believe that. You're going to destroy the next generation using that
stop
flannel
it.
board.
You're joking with
No,
me.
I'm
right now.
not.
People, they decried the flannel
I
board.
told
as
you what they
something-
did with the first organ down at
Well,
the
yeah,
Waco
you did. Yeah,
Waco
they
Baptist Church.
tossed
They
it in the
tossed it
river.
in the Brazos.
I don't
I'm
understand.
not having that thing in
What's
here.
if you? Okay, we'll go one more minute. So what did people say about the flannel board? Are you kidding me? Like pieces of cloth?
And
Like
then you
showing
went
that-
from the flannel board to the overhead projector.
Well, yeah,
Oh my word!
that
You're
was-
bringing that technology in
That
here.
was demon spawn. Well, that's actually
That's true.
that's actually electricity. A flannel board is just like, hey, look at this picture of what.
Well, it's
Moses
like
did.
screens. I
These
literally
kids-
was preaching in a church one night where they told me afterwards that they had just had a huge fight in the deacons meeting over putting up a screen. Now, this was just a few years ago. And I said, do they watch TV at home? Do they have a telephone? Yeah, I know they got a telephone. They're looking at screens all the time.
My favorite is where the deacon gets up there, and they're having the deacons meeting in the sanctuary, and he says, "Over my dead body will there ever be a keyboard or a synthesizer in this church?" And behind him is this huge pipe organ.
Yeah,
And I'm like, "What do you think that is?"
yeah.
It's a synthesizer. It just uses air instead of maybe it might use electricity as well. This is just what's wrong with us, Pastor?
I don't know. We just like to fight and fuss. But it's all good.
It's all good. Praise the Lord. We've got a lot of great
So now
unity around this church.
flannelgraphs, we go back to flannelgraphs. That's okay. That's great.
Would it
That's
be?
good.
That might be controversial.
No.
People be like, hey, what are we giving money for if you're just using pieces of cloth? Where are the screens? Where's the haze? We're going to lose this generation.
Get a light machine in here. Fog machine.
Next week, Pastor
Smoke
and I,
machine.
we're going to have the smoke machine. We're going to have the lights coming in. Both of us are going to have those small circle glasses. I'm going to get Pastor in a deep V-neck T-shirt, and we are going for it.
My shirt tail will be out.
Pastor's not going to tuck his shirt in next week. Be here Monday morning, bright and early.
Yikes.
We're not going to remember that we said any of this. Okay, love you guys.
Huh? Get a
Jared's
tattoo?
getting a new tattoo next week. Oh,
Oh, me a tattoo? No.
too far. We jumped the shark. That's it. No tattoo.
Y'all get-